Hey, Lark and Rose here, and first of all, a week from today is the Dallas screening of The Jones Plantation. And not just a screening of the movie, but I will be there and Amanda will be there. Andrew Treglia, the director, will be there. Mr. Jones himself will be there. I believe a couple other cast members will be there. Can't mention names because I'm not sure which ones are going to make it for sure. And we will be having a short little meet and greet before the movie, and then afterwards a Q&A and discussing the thing and having a back and forth. So that's a week from today in Dallas. So if you check the description below, the link will show you how to get tickets. We will also have some of our awesome Jones Plantation t-shirts. Zippity doo dah. In the trailer, so this doesn't count as a spoiler, Mr. Smith explains that if you want to wield real power, you must be willing to do what most consider to be unthinkable. And I want to do a quick rant about that because there's another element to that that doesn't get mentioned, which is you, if you're the tyrannical psycho trying to get power, you have to be willing to just be basically a psychopath and do completely evil things. But for that to work, the people you're doing it to, the people you're trying to control, have to have a hard time believing that you would do such a thing. It has to be literally unthinkable for them. They can't even be capable of considering the possibility that you would do that. Because if they start to think that, yeah, maybe he would do something completely heinously insane, then the propaganda doesn't work. And one huge indicator of the collapse of the legitimacy of the U.S. ruling class, and ruling classes all over the world for that matter, in the eyes of the people, is how many people are starting to think, yeah, they would probably totally be capable of doing whatever. Like a huge number of people think government, yeah, there are people in government who would absolutely have done 9/11 and murdered a bunch of Americans on purpose. Now, again, my point isn't even whether that happened or not. I'm just talking about whether people are capable of considering the possibility. Because when it goes from being unthinkable in the minds of the people to thinkable, and they can go, yeah, maybe they would intentionally set fires up in Canada or Hawaii to serve some political agenda, and so they can scare everybody with climate change and yada, yada, yada. As soon as people can even entertain the possibility in their brains, the whole unthinkable atrocities routine in the long run isn't actually helping the tyrants anymore. Because if people start to go, yeah, they would do that, and stuff related to the past few years, yeah, they would totally lie and push a thing to enrich themselves and empower themselves in a way that not only doesn't help anybody's health, but is detrimental to millions and millions of people's lives. And the more people get to the point where they realize, yeah, some people in power would absolutely just do completely heinous things, the less power tyrants get from that particular approach. And I think that has been changing massively just over the past few decades, or even the past few years, even more. But there was a time when if you suggested that, for example, the government would totally plan terrorist acts on U.S. soil to get support for another war, most people would be offended and shocked. That's ridiculous. Our brave men and women are protecting us and they're out there, blah, blah, blah. And then Operation Northwoods gets declassified. Whoops, I think some bureaucrat just sort of put the wrong label on something and accidentally declassified documents where you can see top government officials casually chatting about faking terrorist actions to get public support for a war. Casualty reports in newspapers would cause a helpful wave of indignation. Yeah, it really helps get people behind your warmongering if you can, make them think a bunch of people died, or actually make them know a bunch of people died. That was a quote from Operation Northwoods. If you haven't read those documents, do. I think a whole lot more people today than even just, in the 60s, maybe in 70s, can imagine at least some in power being evil enough to do completely heinous things, which means literally it's not unthinkable anymore. It has become thinkable in the minds of lots of people, to the point where now those in power will try all sorts of nasty things, and when it goes wrong and people go, you're totally, like the one of the most obvious examples is the Jeffrey Epstein suicide. Sure. And literally before it happened, everybody was like, well, he's going to kill himself. Now, people can argue about whether he actually killed himself or was murdered or faked his death, or because if I had $1 billion, I could fake my death. I don't know. I'm not even here to make a guess about that. But it was really obvious to a bunch of people that that's sketchy as hell, that, here's this guy who probably has dirt on a bunch of very powerful people and probably has direct evidence of them doing very extremely slimy things. And man, he just dies. Wow, what a coincidence. And the cameras didn't work. And it's to the point that things like that happen, and a lot of even normal people go, yeah, really? You really think we're going to buy that crap of the official story? When you're to that point, if you're the psychos in power, you have to know that you're on borrowed time, because you're not playing a game where your underlings think you're there to save them and serve them. They just think you're a giant psychopathic tyrant, and they might still fall for the political game and bicker over which tyrant they think is less psychotic, and they may do silly things like think Trump is anti-establishment and he'll go in and save the day, and even when he's in there for 4 years and pushes more authoritarianism and keeps up the bombing and all that. No, we need 4 more years. So there's still people who fall for the ridiculous political game, but the number of people who can now at least ponder the possibility that those in power are murderers, among other things, that means the legitimacy of the state is crumbling. And in the Jones Plantation, you see an example where the number of people capable of thinking, maybe the people in charge are doing really nasty stuff, is almost nobody. And the number of people going, that's ridiculous. Don't make stuff up. That's just insane to think that they would do that. What are you talking about, you crazy person? And so that totally shows up in Jones Plantation. But in real life, the number of people now willing to go, yeah, I bet they did totally evil stuff. Whether you're talking about, 9/11 or warmongering or blowing up pipelines or, all sorts of things. There's a very long list of evil, psychotic things that government either did or probably did, or even if they didn't do it, the fact that lots of people would look and go, yeah, they probably did that, shows a significant mental shift in society at large, to the point that fewer and fewer things are becoming unthinkable. Now lots of normal people are like, yeah, they would do that. Yeah, they would be working on bioweapons, and if one accidentally got away, they'd blame it on some random market in China. Oh, that's crazy. That's our conspiracy. You got to shut down all the videos that say that. And then later they're like, oh yeah, it probably got out of our lab. So when normal people see that, oh, okay, so now they're totally admitting that there's a pretty high likelihood it came from that, and they lied about this, and they lied about that, and they framed that, and they framed that person, and they faked this terrorist act. I mean, how many times does the FBI have to get caught basically creating their own terrorist plot so they can foil it and save the day from themselves and get some clueless patsy who was some idiot desperate for money to do some little part of it. Haha, we got him for a conspiracy to do terrorist stuff. Yeah, but you were the terrorists and it was your plot. And they got caught. And recently in federal court, a judge even said, yeah, the FBI totally made this plot happen. And then these, little nobodies got roped into it with the promise of money for doing some little piece of this non-existent plot. When that stuff keeps coming out, more and more people, they're at least going to be able to ponder the possibility. Now, a lot of people still might not like it. They might resist pretty dang hard wanting to accept the reality that, yeah, there are some people in power. It's not like everybody in government is all together in on this conspiracy, but there are absolutely some people in power who would murder you in a heartbeat to gain or preserve power for themselves. They don't give a crap about you. They don't give a crap about me. They don't give a crap about anybody but themselves. And I think humanity, like the bumbling idiot tyrants, are getting so bad at the propaganda and so bad at getting away. I mean, the Hunter Biden thing, like, he's just, the son of one puppet of the, like, in the big scheme of things, who freaking cares? But look how clumsy they are at just bumbling around and posting like videos of themselves committing all sorts of crimes, and then having these exchanges that get leaked, and people can just say, oh, you're totally corrupt and he's totally corrupt and that side's totally corrupt, and you're all hanging out with this creep Epstein, and you're all on his flight logs. And funny how none of you is out there saying, we got to release that client list. Normal people are seeing that. And normal people, like a lot of normal people, don't even want to have to think about this crap at all. But a bunch of them are thinking about it anyway and going, yeah, I guess they really are that screwed up. They really are so demented and evil and psychopathic that they would victimize children and yet things like Sound of Freedom coming out about, child sex trafficking is about as horrible a thing as there could possibly be. And the mainstream media are trying to bash it and detract. And I know people in the freedom movement are like, well, yeah, but that secretly it's an agenda to tap, like, whatever. But the fact that there's the topic being discussed that, yeah, people in positions of power may be directly involved in this most heinous of, whatever you call it, endeavors. And more people seeing that, and coming to grips with the fact that, yeah, they might really be that creepy. And, like, how many people in Hollywood have to come out, oh, he was an abuser, Harvey Weinstein, and this guy, and that guy, and this guy comes out. Turns out this guy was sending these horrible messages. This guy was abusing underage boys. This guy was, like, how many people who are rich and famous, whether in politics or Hollywood or anywhere else, have to get caught doing horrendous things until the general public starts to go, maybe a bunch of them really are just sick, demented psychos who would literally do anything. And we're getting there. We're well on the way to being to the point where, for a whole lot of people, nothing is unthinkable anymore. Like when it comes to imagining what psychos in power would do. Now, a lot of people are still delusional and playing the wishful thinking game where they're trying really hard to imagine, well, they wouldn't be that bad. They're just, maybe their agenda just didn't work right. But plenty of people can look at jokers like Trudeau and go, nothing about his behavior gave the slightest impression he gives a shit about anybody but himself. None of this was about health. None of this was about protecting people. This was about power. He's absolutely a control freak fascist who will bash and condemn. Like, if he could get away with it, he would absolutely lock up anybody critical of himself. Just obviously, it's just in the current day and age, he's in a position where it's difficult to just directly do that. But if you come out and protest, yeah, he'll find a way to have banks shut down your accounts. And then he'll go out and call you all Nazis and just do the stupidest propaganda to the point that lots of Canadians and lots of people around the world can see that particular puppet, again, he's just one puppet in the giant monstrous machine, he doesn't give a crap about us. And the more people figure that out, and they're figuring it out about Biden, and slowly people are figuring out about Trump, some people could tell from the beginning because he didn't even do a good job of hiding it. Trump doesn't care about anybody but Trump. Like, not sure how anybody could imagine otherwise still. But even if people are still playing the stupid political game, I bet if there was some way to measure how many of the people think that certain people in government would, for example, murder a bunch of people for political power, I bet that's now well over 50%. And they may say, well, I trust my guy, but not that guy. Okay, whatever. But as long as they're to the point where they can ponder the possibility that people in government would do absolutely anything, destroy lives, destroy homes, murder people, victimize children. Yeah, they're doing that. And it's a good thing that so many people are now at least able to ponder that possibility, because they just weren't before. There used to be so much respect for the office and yada, 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 where an accusation of somebody in high office doing something that slimy was really unusual and scandalous, and the media would jump on it because whether they wanted to or not, because like people are going to, be shocked and horrified that this came out. Now, where's the mainstream media? They've just become Pravda West. They're just a propaganda arm, so that when something like the Epstein story comes out, they're all stamping on it and trying to censor it. And we don't really need a client list. Never mind. Oh, look over here, global warming and stuff. And so it's good to see, it's scary to see, because the more desperate psychos get, the more evil the crap they're going to try to pull off. But the good news is the more people are capable of realizing just what those psychos might actually do, the less likely it is for those things to actually work. And would they fake a school shooting? Yeah. Did they? I don't know. You can debate it about any particular set of facts you want. That's beside the point. If enough people realize, yes, people in power would do anything, including murdering you, to maintain or increase their own power, then a lot of the games of tyrants aren't going to work, and some of them are going to actually backfire. When people actually think, yeah, I think you did that on purpose. I think you psychos in power who are wringing your hands and crying and feigning concern for the victims of whatever the hell you did this week. People aren't buying that crap anymore, more and more. And it's really good to see. And that's, that can be summed up as what used to be unthinkable for the general public is now thinkable. Not thinkable as in them doing it, but as in, yeah, we can consider the possibility that people in power actually did this evil crap on purpose. And really as evil as you can get, not just sort of, a little bit of insider trading, whoop-de-frickin-do. I'm talking about murder and torture and warmongering and lying all over the place to create a war that kills millions of people. And I think a lot of people now are able to entertain the possibility that that's happening. It's been happening the whole stinking time. They didn't just start doing all these heinous things, but the general public, the majority, probably for the first time in recent decades in this country, has gotten to the point where they can consider the possibility that, yeah, they're literally murdering people, among other things, to serve their own power. And when the victims of authoritarian insanity at least get to that level of awareness, at least they have a chance to see through it and not fall for it, and eventually even do something about it. Now, the do something about it or doing the right thing about it and voting for a new puppet is not something that's going to fix anything. That's going to take a while before humanity actually all the way fixes this, and that has more to do with their brains and their belief system than it does with whatever psychos are in power at any given moment. But it has to start with people being able to consider the possibility that those people who say we're here to protect and serve are the worst people in the world and would do absolutely heinous stuff that used to be unthinkable for most people, but has thankfully become thinkable. So, Dallas screening a week from today. Be there, and you'll see this very theme, among many others, showing up in the movie. People doing things that are unthinkable, and lots of people wanting so much for them to not be true that they just go into denial, and then that rewards the tyrants for doing completely evil crap when people go, well, they can't possibly have done that on purpose. They can't be that evil. That's exactly what the tyrants need people to think, and that has been falling apart, where lots of people are now able to go, Yeah, I think they might be totally capable of doing such horrendously evil things. And yeah, they are, and they have been the whole time, but people haven't been able to consider that for most of the history of this country, and now a lot of them are. Yeehaw. So, I'll see some of you in Dallas. The rest of you, heck with you. Keep believing in freedom and keep thinking the unthinkable. And it doesn't mean every conspiracy theory is true, and it doesn't mean everything is under their control, because it isn't. But it does mean there is nothing so evil that some people in power wouldn't do it to benefit themselves. Just grasping that simple reality would go a long way to helping humanity escape this insanity.